Hello, lovely people. I hope that you are well, and I'm delighted that you are tuning in to listen to me today. And today I'm going to be chatting with you about 2026. We're still, unfortunately, as I'm recording this, we're in the 22nd of January. So we're still in this bloomin' never ending month with no end in sight. But because we're still in January, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about the new year because it is a good time. It is a good time to be thinking about what you want from your practice this year, what your hopes are for your private practice, and what are some of the realities that we need to be aware of when it comes to building and marketing our private practice in 2026. So, I'm going to be chatting today about some of the stuff that I covered last week when I was running my open house event. It was a fab event. Really, really pleased with how it went and all the feedback from it. It was a free event and was really aimed at therapists that are really entering into private practice this year, and was really to highlight a lot of the things that they really wanted to spend some time thinking about and taking into consideration before they go full throttle into starting their private practice. So I'm going to just pull out kind of some of the key points that I talked about last week for you to take away and to consider yourself. Because even if you have been established in private practice for a little while, there might still be some information that's relevant here for you in your practice, especially around client behavior and how client search behavior has perhaps changed. So, the theme of the open house event last week was really about how much the private practice landscape really has changed. And I would say, in particular, kind of post COVID, it's changed really dramatically. So I've been in practice since 2012 when I first dabbled and dipped my toe into private practice. It was very much that you just set up locally, you find a little room that you could rent in your local area. And directories, I can't even remember if counseling directories existed then. I'm sure they probably did. But for me in my local area, it was a case of setting up Google Business, building a Facebook page, business page, and I think I built a really rubbish sort of DIY website on Yell.com. And that was sufficient. 12, 13 years ago, that was actually really sufficient. And back in the day, that's when Facebook was actually a local and social community. So it meant that local businesses could really support each other. It meant that people could find your counselling practice really easily in the local area. But Facebook just does not work like that now. And really, unless you're doing paid advertising, it's really hard to get any kind of traction on that. So pre-COVID times, especially, 10 years ago when I was setting up your local social media, word of mouth, all of those things really were sufficient. And people tended to work more in a generalist capacity. And honestly, when I think back to when I was starting in practice, I actually didn't know there was an alternative. It didn't occur to me. And there, as far as I was aware, there was nobody around who was doing what I'm doing now and supporting people to set up their practices. These things just didn't appear to exist. It was just the assumption that you would qualify. You would go in ideally to maybe some voluntary work, or you would go into some paid roles. You would go into the NHS, or you would go into community organisations. And if you did private practice, it was something that you sort of did on the side in your local area to supplement your income. Obviously, that has changed massively now. And for most of us, COVID is going to be the thing that is going to have influenced us most dramatically in recent years, because all of a sudden people who were working in person in an in-person capacity were now working virtually, and clients were seeing their therapists virtually. And this transition really opened our eyes up to what was possible in the online space. And for many people, many therapists then preferred the idea of working virtually. I know I certainly did, because it meant that I didn't have to commute for a couple of hours each day. So I loved the concept of it. And for some clients, they loved it too, because they loved, not having to stress about how they were going to get parked near the office where they were going to see their therapist. They weren't going to have to pay for travel to get there. They weren't going to have to take a whole afternoon off work to go and see their therapist. So now this has opened up the landscape, which means that for clients, they have a much broader pool that they can search in to find the ideal therapist for them. And that's a really great thing. It means that people aren't just having to go to whoever happens to be close by, that they can really spend time researching and looking into the type of therapist that they want to work with. And it would be much more common now for a client to be searching and looking for a really specific type of therapist. Either someone who is really experienced in the particular issue that they are looking for support with, or someone that they really resonate and connect with. And so what does that mean for us as therapists in private practice? Well, it means that we can't rely on maybe some of the marketing practices that we would have done before. The days when it would have been that we would just have a directory profile and that we would fill our practice just through the directory profile, that really isn't sufficient anymore for many reasons. One being that actually there's lots of therapists now on directory profiles. So for a client who is doing a search for a particular therapist and they come into the directory profiles and they find that there's literally hundreds and hundreds of profiles to go through, that is incredibly overwhelming. Can you imagine how that would feel for you if you were looking for a particular therapist to help you with an issue and then you discovered that you were just faced with pages upon pages of profiles to read through. And then you read the profiles and they're all really generic. They're all really boring. They all just read a academic CV. I would just be clicking out of that, straight away. So now our clients are more discerning. So they might be more inclined to do things. Look for a website, a therapist website. So if they are going into Google, for example, and they're putting in looking for an eating disorder therapist specializing in binge eating. So that's my niche, just as an example. They may well go to the directory profiles and they may well look for those specialisms and look for those keywords in the directory profiles. But they might also be inclined to look at what therapist websites come up that have those specialisms and go in and have a look at the websites. So when it comes to your private practice website, this is where, particularly if you are working in an online capacity, having a niche is really of high value because we want to be capturing those people who are going to Google, who are doing that search for a therapist just like you. What they will engage in, and again, this is where things are slightly different now, is they are going to look for what resonates with them and what gives them clarity. So where previously we would have, when we were focusing on having a niche, that we would have talked very much about the modalities and how the modality can help you in this niche. We would talk into the therapeutic language of this particular niche area and problem. But what we are doing now and how we are transitioning in our marketing in private practice in 2026 and beyond is that we are looking at how can we communicate what we do and how we help our ideal clients in a way that really resonates with them. So this is about dropping the whole professional persona, dropping the blank slate therapist, dropping the need to prove our worth and our capability behind our qualifications and our accreditations, and meeting our potential clients human to human. And that can feel really scary. And that was certainly what was coming up last week in a lot of the conversations, is this fear of where do we draw the line here with professional boundaries? How human do I need to be? Do they really need to see me with the messy bun and the sweatpants on? What are we talking about here? It still is very much like you decide where your boundaries are around how much of you decide to show up. But that is what, for many, many clients, they will really be looking for, is the human in you, and what they are going through. And they will want to get this sense of you and whether you can help them pretty quickly. So what is not helpful for that is what a lot of therapist websites do. I was doing a lot of review and feedback as part of last week, is having websites that are stuffed full of text. They're really text heavy. I completely understand that you as a therapist are trying to show your credibility. You're trying to show that you can help, but what you're doing is just overwhelming them even further. So a website that is appealing to look at visually, that is really easy to navigate, that speaks really specifically into your ideal client and how they're feeling and their pain points, and describes in a really human, conversational way that you acknowledge and understand how they feel, how you can help them, and how they can get in touch with you. Your website does not need to be overwhelmed with credentials or information about professional bodies or anything like that that is of no relevance. So the feedback I was giving to many people asking for feedback on their websites last week was cut it down, cut it down, cut it down, condense it, keep it simple, keep your language simple, keep your ideal client in your mind in anything that you are writing, and to really focus on that. So in terms of that, the client search behavior in 2026, it is still primarily Google. Google is going to be the place that people are going to go and ask questions and look for recommendations on. That is still the key place. So we still need to prioritize our knowing our ideal client. We still need to prioritize having a really well-written directory profile. They still are of value, directory profiles, but my hope and what I try and really focus on with any therapist that I'm working with and inside the membership community is to really treat your website as your most valuable marketing asset. It is the one piece of marketing that you own. You're not at the mercy of algorithms like you are on social media and on the directory profiles. Actually, you're at the mercy of algorithms there as well. Your website is the one piece of asset that you own. So from my perspective, it should be your best piece. It should be the piece that you've really done work on, ideally that you've invested in, and have a good functional SEO optimized website. And it should be somewhere where you ideally are adding keyword optimized blogs onto fairly consistently and really building up your website searchability. Because how amazing would it be for you to get to a place where you're getting your inquiries directly through your website and that you're not needing to rely on the directory profiles or other things just so much. That's where I thankfully have my website too now, where my discovery call bookings, they come straight through my website because I am really hyper specific on my website about who my ideal client is and who I work with. That took a little while to get it to that place. I spent several months writing blogs, and I still will add blogs to my website to make sure I'm answering relevant questions that my ideal client might be typing into Google. So just as a little bit of an example, I don't want to go too much off topic, but as a little bit of an example, something that obviously impacted my niche area of binge eating is the GLP-1 medication. So I have started writing blogs that are really orientated around that. So one blog that is driving quite a lot of traffic to my website is a blog about what happens after you stop taking GLP-1 medications and does binge eating return. Because that's what a lot of people who struggle in their relationship with food, who are using GLP-1s, that is a fear that a lot of them have. So that is what my blog really speaks to, and then links to my services specifically for people who are taking GLP-1. So I'm answering relevant questions, relevant topics that my ideal client is searching into Google. And that's what blog topics and blog writing should do. It shouldn't just be you writing something that you're interested in. It's answering the questions that your ideal client might be up Googling at 1 o'clock in the morning. So That's what your website ideally would be doing for you in time. It's worth investing that time and that energy into your website to do that. Now, the thing that is going to be peeking its head out in the corner at some stage, it's already starting to happen and will become more and more common, I've no doubt, as the months go on, is that your clients will start looking and asking ChatGPT for recommendations for therapists. So your potential client might start asking ChatGPT questions. What would I be looking for in a binge eating therapist? They might ask sort of those more conversational type questions and have those more kind of conversations. And then they might start asking ChatGPT, can you recommend someone that offers counseling for binge eating and ideally maybe meet this criteria? So with ChatGPT, I did a whole workshop on this in December, which is what things can you do to get recommended by ChatGPT if someone is asking those sorts of questions. That training is now it's inside the membership, but just to give you a little bit of a sense of some of the things that we covered, your website will be one of those key pieces that if someone goes in and asks for recommendations of a particular therapist in a particular area, your website is one of those things that it will crawl and it will look for those keywords. It will look for ease of use and it will look in particular at FAQs on pages. ChatGPT loves FAQs because it loves the conversational question and answer based type of content. So it will look for FAQs that answer your ideal clients questions that they might be asking. It will also do a troll through directory profile. So it will very much see Counseling Directory and Psychology Today as credible sources. So it will troll from those and look for recommendations as well. And it will also look at platforms. It will troll some social media, but it won't take that as credible and as high as it does your website and those directory profile platforms. It will also troll LinkedIn. So if you happen to have a niche specific presence on LinkedIn and that you have active content on LinkedIn, it will look at that as well. And it will also look at Bing. Interest is an interesting one. It doesn't troll through Google Business. It trolls through Bing. So if you don't have a Bing listing, that might be something that you might want to consider. And when you set a Bing listing up, it actually will connect and update through your Google Business listing. And you just, anytime you go and update your Google Business listing, it can then transfer any information across to Bing so that your Bing stays updated as well. So that is something that I think as more and more people are using ChatGPT for everyday life and recommendations and questions about things, I think it will start to become somewhere that people might also start to ask recommendations for therapists. And certainly inside Facebook communities, I'm seeing more and more posts of people who say that they have been recommended through ChatGPT. So I don't know exactly what that is going to look like in the future, but I imagine it will become much more commonplace as people start to use ChatGPT as a replacement for how they ordinarily will use Google as a search engine. So I appreciate you might be listening to this and you might be thinking, oh my God, something else. And that was a bit of a feeling for some people last week. Oh my God, something else we have to learn. Something else we have to know. And I guess this is the reality of the world that we live in now. Things do move at a very fast pace, and that can feel a bit overwhelming. I totally and utterly get it. I very much try to be at the forefront of what these changes are and to put these things into place. So I go down huge, big, hyper-focused rabbit holes trying to learn what do all these changes mean for us? What do we need to do and know in order to be searchable, to be findable on these platforms? So I spent a lot of time around my website, rewriting and formatting my website so that it is more likely to be recommended by ChatGPT. I also discovered that there were certain profiles that would rank highly to help get recommended by ChatGPT. So for myself as an eating disorder therapist, there were certain platforms that were really recommended for me to be on. So I'm now on those. So I've had one client that has found me through ChatGPT recommendation. And I'm hoping that that is something that is going to then start to become much more of a pathway for me as the months go on, based on the work that I've done over the last couple of months. And I think that's probably what I would love to wrap up and finish with, is something for you just to have a kind of a think about. So one, it's pretty clear in this conversation and in previous conversations that if you are intending to work online, if you are hoping to attract self-funding clients, and that they find you ideally through Google search or ChatGPT recommendations, this is where the niching is super important, but that it isn't just niching as in keywords. It's niching as in you showing who you are as a therapist, who you are as a human, and in your content that you have absolute clarity of who your ideal client is, and that you are speaking to them in very human-centered, conversational, easy to understand language. So that is absolutely paramount. The other thing that came up last week that I really want to reiterate time and time again is that a lot of anxiety that was coming up in conversations was around social media. How there are therapists that are almost becoming influencer on social media, how it feels very performative, it feels very competitive. And something that I just really kind of tried to keep bringing people back to is right now search behavior is still very much primarily on Google, that directory profiles and websites are still more likely to be the place where people will find you first. Social media is likely to be the place that they might then go to afterwards to see the human, in you, to see the messy bun and the sweatpants version of you, to check you out and see, do they think that they might connect with you, that they might enjoy working with you. And so that's where social media can be incredibly helpful. But it's really pointless panicking over that, panicking about needing to grow your social media account or to be viral or anything like that, if you're not clear on who your ideal client is, and if your directory profile and if your website, for want of a better word, are crap. Because if they're crap, people aren't going to go on to then click on the social media and to check you out. So I say this time and time again, is try not to give too much of your time and energy into making your Insta perfect and beautiful and trying to go viral if your foundational parts of your marketing aren't doing the job that they should be doing. And for things being found by Google search and coming up those rankings and coming up on those ChatGPT recommendations, the reality is that that is the behind the scenes work. That is the slow work. That's the work that doesn't have an immediate dopamine hit because we're getting likes and comments and seeing how many people are viewing our posts. There's not an awful lot of dopamine that comes with the blog writing and the tweaking your SEO and your meta titles and all of that sort of stuff. It's really unsexy, but it is the stuff that does pay off in the long run. And for me and my energy and my capacity, I would so much rather have people come to my website, see that it really speaks to them, sees that it shows me and that I completely understand my client and that I can help them, and that they book a call through that. Now, for me, that works. I have a small caseload. I only need around 10 clients. That's perfect for me. If I happen to need more clients, then possibly that's where I would then maybe dedicate some time and energy into social media. But the website is doing the job that it needs to do. So that's what I want to just kind of leave you with, is focus on that clarity first. Focus on your messaging, focusing on spending time on your website and getting that it's working for you. And then, yes, if social media is something that you want to explore, then absolutely explore and experiment and have fun with that, and use that, as the place where you get to experiment, have a little bit of fun and grow in confidence in that visibility piece. But not until you've done the other things, first of all. So that is what I would love to leave you with today. I hope that has been helpful. As always, these podcasts are me just hitting record and chatting. I do not have the time and the capacity for heavy editing and fancy jingles. So what you see is what you get, and that's sort of the way I am. And I hope that that is something that works for you. If you are interested in getting any further support in your private practice, if any of this has resonated with you, if you're in those early stages and actually you realize you're going around in circles with things, you're dipping your toe in things, you're trying to do things, you're trying to DIY everything, and it's just not working, do come and check out the membership. This membership has been built for people just like you to have structure, to have support, to have me in there very actively engaged, helping you, giving you feedback, supporting you, giving you guidance around what you need to do. Tons and tons of resources to make life way easier and to help you get the private practice that you really want. So I will pop the website link in the show notes below, or you can come and check it out at www.prosperinprivatepractice.com. And then you'll just find the link in there to the membership. You would be more than welcome to join us on the inside. But that's it for now, and I look forward to more than welcome to join us on the inside. But that's it for now, and I look forward to inside. But that's it for now, and I look forward to talking to you soon.